He was Europe's future conqueror, but his childhood in Corsica was filled with poverty and scorn. This is the untold story of how those early struggles fueled Napoleon Bonaparte's fierce ambition, an ambition that would shake continents and secure his place in history. From a shy island boy to a powerful leader, he faced a harsh upbringing that shaped him in ways no one could have predicted. So how did a boy from a small, rugged island end up changing the fate of an entire continent? Corsica was a rugged island in the Mediterranean. Mountains loomed over stony beaches, and sharp winds carried whispers of pride and rebellion. By the end of the 18th century, the island had fallen under French rule, and many locals resented this change. Men gathered in smoky taverns, complaining of lost freedoms. The tension was thick, hanging in the air like the island's salty breeze. In the midst of this, a boy named Napoleon Bonaparte was growing up. Small and watchful, with dark, thoughtful eyes, he carried the weight of his family's struggles. Some Corsicans mocked them. His family were not as wealthy as true aristocrats, yet they clung to their claim of nobility. Neighbors snickered, gossip spread, and in a place where status mattered, that contrast stung. His father, Carlo, was a man of ambition. He believed Corsica had a future with France, though most locals disagreed. When Carlo spoke of opportunity, something lit up in Napoleon's eyes. He wanted more than what the island could offer. His mother, Letizia, was different, strict, disciplined. In their home, obedience was law. She ruled with a sharp tongue and unwavering expectations. Napoleon's early sense of the world was shaped between Carlo's ambition and Letizia's discipline. But their noble title didn't pay the bills. Money was tight, and whispers of their struggles spread. The family walked a fine line between pride and hardship. Then one day, everything changed. A single decision would send Napoleon across the sea, far from Corsica's tight grip, and onto a path that would alter history. Inside the Bonaparte household, tensions sparked like flint against steel. Their noble claims didn't change the fact that money was tight. The furniture was plain, and the rooms felt cramped. Debts weighed heavily on Carlo's mind. He traveled often, hoping to improve their fortunes, but his successes were small. Letizia grew stern whenever he took risks they couldn't afford. Their whispered worries sometimes turned into heated arguments behind closed doors. Napoleon would listen from the stairwell, heart pounding, afraid their hopes might come crashing down. Still, Carlo clung to big ideas. He believed that forging ties with French authorities would raise the family's status. Some neighbors called him a traitor to Corsica. Others mocked him for chasing dreams they thought were out of reach. But he pressed on, determined to send Napoleon to a military academy in France. He saw it as the only way to restore the family's honor. But there was a problem. The journey would cost more than they could spare. Letizia, anxious but composed, prayed for a change in fortune. Napoleon felt his mother's worries. Her scolding grew sharper when money ran low. He also saw how his father's cheerful words sometimes hid real concern. His feelings were tangled. He loved Corsica's rugged beauty, but deep down, he knew it was too small for his ambitions. And though he was just a child, he felt ashamed of the family's struggles. That shame, mixed with determination, pushed him forward. He longed for a life beyond their neighbors' judgment. Finally, the family secured him a place at a military school in France. Some called them foolish. Others said the boy would fail. But Carlo believed it was their best chance. Letizia, though outwardly calm, felt her heart ache at the thought of sending her son so far away. Napoleon packed his few belongings, kissed his mother's cheek, and stepped onto the waiting boat. As the sails caught the wind, Corsica's familiar shores faded behind him. Ahead lay France, a world of privilege, power, and challenge. Brienne Military Academy loomed on the horizon, and with it, trials that would shape the boy into something far greater than anyone expected. The military academy at Brienne felt cold, even when sunlight poured through its tall windows. Wealthy French boys filled the halls, speaking flawless French and wearing fine uniforms. Napoleon's thick Corsican accent made him stand out. His simple clothing made him stand out even more. Some laughed. Others exchanged knowing smirks. He stood alone in the corner, fists clenched at his sides. Drills began at dawn. Instructors barked orders. Napoleon forced himself to ignore the whispers behind his back. He focused on every detail: the angle of his salute, the shine on his boots, the firm grip on a practice saber. He refused to give them another reason to mock him. Memories of his family's struggles burned in his mind, and every time someone sneered, "Poor little Corsican," his determination hardened. Afternoons were spent in classrooms, buried in books of math and history. He excelled, answering quickly, calculating faster than the rest. His teachers took notice. But instead of earning him respect, his success made things worse. Some classmates saw him as a show-off. Others resented the idea that nobody from an island could outshine them. One instructor praised his skills in artillery and assigned him extra tasks. The taunts only grew louder. At night, when the lamps flickered in the dormitory, Napoleon pored over books about ancient generals. He imagined himself leading armies, commanding thousands, proving to the world that he was more than just an outcast. He paced the courtyard at dawn, planning how to outmaneuver his bullies. He rarely spoke, but inside, something fierce was growing. His teachers saw a boy driven by something beyond ambition. His classmates sensed it too, and even though they still mocked him deep down, some of them started to wonder, was Napoleon truly beneath them? Or was he something else entirely? Beyond the academy walls, France itself was shifting. Whispers of revolution stirred in the streets, and soon the world that had once looked down on Napoleon would be forced to look up. Back in Corsica, unrest surged like a stormy sea. Many islanders still dreamed of breaking free from French rule, rallying around the old hero Pasquale Paoli. Napoleon returned home, eager to serve the Corsican cause. He believed Paoli would welcome a young officer trained in France. But the reunion was tense. Whispers spread that his family had once sided with French officials. Some Corsicans eyed them with suspicion. Rumors swirled, and loyalties shifted overnight. Napoleon tried to balance Corsican pride with his French rank, but that proved impossible. Factions clashed, and street brawls erupted in the capital. Paoli grew wary of Napoleon's intentions, seeing him as too eager to win favor from mainland rulers. The boy who had left Corsica as a student now felt like a stranger in his own land. The island had become a place of bitter divisions, neighbors turning against neighbors. Tension finally boiled over, violence erupted, and his family became targets. Napoleon's admiration for Paoli crumbled into disillusionment. Under cover of night, the Bonapartes fled, leaving behind their property and any hope of Corsican acceptance. As their ship pulled away from the shore, the dimming lights of the island reminded Napoleon that he might never truly belong there again. Paris was no safe haven. The revolution raged with protests and bloodshed. The monarchy tottered as riots broke out and heads rolled under the guillotine. Napoleon scrambled to keep his military post. He caught the attention of powerful men who valued skill over noble birth. Recognizing his talent for artillery, they saw a promising officer. He seized every chance, knowing a single failure could leave him friendless and broke. Then came a bold opportunity. Rebels had seized the port of Toulon. During the siege, Napoleon displayed both tactical brilliance and relentless drive. Cannons pounded enemy lines. Soldiers charged headlong into the smoke. His calm, decisive orders turned chaos into victory. Superiors rewarded him with a promotion. For the first time, Napoleon tasted real power, the respect of generals, the thrill of victory. But he also saw how easily fortunes could shift. One day a hero, the next a suspect. It was a gamble he was willing to take. Childhood shame and hard-won pride had become his greatest weapons. One rung at a time, he climbed closer to the crossroads of ambition and destiny. With his triumph at Toulon, Napoleon's reputation soared. He moved through elite circles in Paris, meeting officials and sensing every subtle shift in power. But the revolution was still turning against its own leaders. One wrong move could lead to arrest, or worse. Yet, he navigated the chaos with razor-sharp discipline, fueled by memories of his classmates' scoffs, Corsican taunts, and his family's struggles. Those wounds kept driving him forward. He believed that mastering military strategy would give him control over his future. With near-obsessive focus, he studied topography and artillery, building on the habits he had formed in Brienne's lonely library, where ancient generals had once strengthened his resolve. Now he tested those theories on real battlefields. If a plan faltered, he adjusted. If an ally wavered, he found another. With every battle, he refined his tactics, favoring cunning where brute force failed. Word spread of his brilliance, tinged with arrogance. Fellow officers whispered that he was too cold, too hungry for glory. He ignored them. Beneath it all, his deepest fears pushed him forward. He would never be powerless. He would never be an outcast again. His parents' influence still shaped him. He managed finances with an iron grip, refusing to let money slip through his fingers. He supported his siblings but demanded absolute loyalty in return. To outsiders, he seemed forged by hardship, relentless, unstoppable, unwilling to rest as long as a single obstacle remained in his path. Outside, revolution churned, with governments rising and collapsing in quick succession. Napoleon watched each shift, stepping in whenever it strengthened his position. When armed crowds threatened the new regime, he acted decisively. He ordered cannons fired into the mob. It was ruthless, but it worked. The government survived, and grateful leaders rewarded him with greater authority. Soon, he was named General of the Interior. Amid the upheaval, Napoleon's ambitions stretched beyond his own rise. His imperial vision was just beginning to take form. The boy who once left Corsica in poverty now commanded both fear and respect. Yet old insecurities lingered. Each time he rose higher, memories of mocking neighbors and sneering classmates returned. He refused to show weakness. Day by day, that childhood shame only sharpened his drive to dominate. Many saw his meteoric rise, but few recognized the inner conflict. He wrestled with a relentless need to prove himself. Some claimed he never truly fit among the French nobility, no matter his rank. He buried those doubts by winning battles and controlling the public narrative, silencing critics and securing powerful allies. But beneath it all, the shadow of that wounded Corsican youth still flickered in his eyes. Ultimately, he crowned himself Emperor of the French. In a grand ceremony clad in gleaming robes, he placed the crown on his own head. To some, It was a dazzling display of power. To others, an unforgivable insult. Yet no matter how high he climbed, whispers of his humble origins followed him. Many believed that despite his triumphs, old wounds still haunted him. Some even feared that the same relentless drive that had carried him so high might one day lead to his downfall. For now he stood at the height of ambition, an unstoppable force. Without the scorn he had endured, he might never have fought so fiercely. Without his family's struggles, he might never have seized every opportunity. That was the paradox. The hardship that defined his early years, cramped quarters, debt, and Corsican feuds, had forged a leader whose name still echoes through history. He had surpassed all expectations, yet the embers of those early struggles still smoldered inside him. The same sparks, first lit in Corsica's narrow streets and Brienne's cold dormitories, would continue shaping his destiny, for better or worse, in the years to come. If you enjoyed this glimpse into Napoleon's beginnings, there's much more to uncover. History is full of unexpected twists, and we're just getting started. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next incredible story.